Hi, hello everyone. Today we are going to learn about another topic under reading skills. It's called distinguishing fact and opinion. So here is the learning objectives for today's lesson. So by the end of today's lesson, students should be able to identify facts and opinion from reading passages. Fact versus opinion. Okay, before we move on to the elaboration, Um, what do you understand by fact and opinion? What is the meaning of fact and what is the meaning of opinion? Fact is something that is true, okay, and it's proven to be true, okay? Opinion is simply what other people think, okay? It's not necessarily true and it's not necessarily proven to be true. Okay, so here's are some characteristic differentiating between the two. Fact, it is based on references or documented material. That's why it is said to be true, because you have to go through some deliberation, some processes in order to derive to the result. So that's why it is considered as true. Opinion is based on one's beliefs and views, what people think, what people feel about something. So that's not necessarily a discussion. There's no need for an experiment to prove that opinion is true. It's simply people giving their own viewpoint. Okay. Another characteristic of fact is it could be identified by the evidence cited. So you can actually try to find the clues by looking at the styles being used. If there's citation, if there's quotation, if it's a result from a research, if it's an experiment, if it's a news report, a statistic report, that can be identified as fact, because that there is an evidence that proof that fact is that particular information is in fact true. Opinion, it could actually be identified by the style or the words being used, especially like modal verbs like would, could, might, may, or qualifiers, probably, perhaps, maybe, and adjectives such as kind, generous, cheerful, bright, horrible, okay, or superlative like great, greater, greatest, big, bigger, biggest, okay. So it's not necessarily like, oh, if you find the word, the modal verb would or probably, or the word kind, oh, it's definitely an opinion. No, not necessarily. Not all the cases like that. But here is just some clue, okay? Probably, maybe, opinion could be identified by the existence of these kind of words. Now, fact is like we know it's the truth that could be verified. You can check whether this is true or not, okay? And opinion is something that you could not really verify whether it's true or not. Okay, now let's try to do an exercise. Read the paragraph below and try to identify whether a statement is a fact or it is an opinion, okay, based on the style, the words, the clues given. Okay, so this particular paragraph is about zoo. Zoos give children the opportunity to see animals at closer range. Zoos give children the opportunity to see animals at closer range. Is it a fact or is it an opinion? Okay, now what is the purpose of zoo? When you go to the zoo, what do you do there? It's to see the animals in a closer range. right? Can you go to the jungle, for example, or can you go to the savannah and look at the animals in closer range in the wild? Is it possible to do that? Not really, because that would impose danger on you because they are roaming free, right? But in zoos, there are a certain compound, okay? They are on a certain compound and they are caged or they are protected in that area, and we are also protected from the outside. So that's why we can see them in a closer range. So it is a fact. Okay, it is a fact. Next one. Some zoos even allow children to touch the animals, an exciting experience for kids, which would prompt parents to make more trips to the zoo. Okay, so some zoo, they let children touch animal, and touching an animal is an experience that is exciting for kids, and that's the reason why parents make more trips to the zoo. So is it a fact or is it an opinion? This is quite obvious, yeah? It's simply an opinion, okay? Because not necessarily touching an animal is a good experience for kids. It can also be something that is horrifying for some kids. And not necessarily parents would make multiple trips to the zoo, okay? So these are simply opinion. Next one. Zoo Negara is perhaps the most popular zoo in Malaysia. Is it fact or opinion? Zoo Negara is perhaps the most popular zoo in Malaysia. Now, when you see the differences, so the characteristics just now in the table, we can actually try to identify an opinion by the use of words such as perhaps, maybe, possibly. Okay, so this, as you can see in the statement, use the word perhaps. So it's not quite sure whether that is true or not. It's just like, you know, the degree of certainty is not high. It's not that high. It's just perhaps, maybe. Okay, maybe the most popular zoo in Malaysia. So that is an opinion. It's not a fact. Once situated in lush virgin forest in the 1960s, it is now surrounded by a concrete jungle. Once situated in lush virgin forest in the 1960s, it is now surrounded by a concrete jungle. Okay, so is it a fact or is it an opinion? What is concrete jungle, by the way? Concrete jungle is referring to the city, the town, with skyscrapers, with buildings, highways, so on and so forth. So that's what it is called. That's what it is referred to as concrete jungle. Okay, so once in the 1960s, it's actually a lush virgin forest. It is now Zoo Negara. It's now surrounded by cities, surrounded by buildings. So is it a fact or is it an opinion? It definitely is a fact, okay? Because you can check in 1960s, if you can Google, okay? 1960s, actually that area was situated, okay, in a lush virgin forest. It's a forest, and now it has been developed into a concrete jungle. Okay, last one. 67 endangered species, of which many are native to Malaysia, have found a sanctuary in the zoo. Is it a fact? Is it opinion? 67 endangered species, which many are native to Malaysia, have found sanctuary in the zoo. This is a fact, okay? Because there are numbering, there are statistics. 67 endangered species. It is a report statistic, okay? So this is a fact. Right, so these are the answers that we have discussed earlier. Okay, the first one is fact, because that is the whole purpose of zoo. Okay. The second one is opinion because not necessarily touching an animal is a good experience for most kids. The third one is also an opinion because of the words, because of the viewpoint being given. It's maybe, okay, the most popular zoo. But now, since we are in 2022, perhaps, we have many other zoos nationwide that I think have surpasses the popularity of Zunagara, because Zunagara is one of the oldest one, right? So we have more new exciting zoos being erected around the nation. So probably they have surpassed the popularity of zoo. But again, this is just my own opinion. It's not a fact. Okay. Once situated in lush virgin forest in 1960s, it's now surrounded by concrete jungle. It is a fact because you can check this. In 1960s, that is actually the history. Okay. 67 endangered species, that is a fact because this is a statistic report. All right, so that's the end of the lesson. So hopefully you know by now how to differentiate between fact and opinion, and be aware of the characteristics that differentiate between the two. Fact is something that is true, based on experiment, statistic report, citation, quotation, um, that sort of thing. And opinion is simply the viewpoint, what people feel about that, and not necessarily true. So that's all for today, and see you in the next lesson. Bye.